And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's very, very special program on this, our 100th program of The Melody Lingers On, and good evening to Ken Burness.
The Road to Gundagai, a tribute from John Hutchinson and Ken Burness of Eastern Community Broadcasters, ECB-FM, to Jack O'Hagan, Australia's greatest popular songwriter.
Jack who? One might well ask. Currently, the memory of Jack O'Hagan may be lost on Australians under 40 years of age. In his time, Jack's reputation and standing was big, and we mean very big. Tonight, as we listen and enjoy the creations of Jack O'Hagan, we may well ponder on the words of a local librarian who, when asked quite recently, "What do you have on Jack O'Hagan?" he replied, "Jack who?"
Pretty crook round these parts, mate. What with no rain for your stock and them all dying, you must be having a pretty crook trot. But you ain't got it all on your own, blimey no. The other day I asked a bloke if he had any old clothes he didn't want. Spruce, he took a look at me and said, "Ain't them you got on old enough?" Yes, things is pretty crook, all right. I knocked on a bloke's door the other day, and when the missus comes out, I gets down on me hands and knees and started eating the grass. I said, "Missus, I'm not hungry, I'll eat grass." She said, "You poor man, go round the back, it's much longer." Yes, things is crook, all right. Well, suppose I'd better be jogging along. Hooray, mate, hooray. I'll see you again.
John Francis O'Hagan was an only child, born at the renowned hotel in Gertrude Street, Fitzroy, in 1898. At the age of 6, he was kidnapped by some locals. His mother offered a £1 reward, which was duly collected. Before the age of 10, he was taken to theatres in Melbourne 2 or 3 times a week. His mother was the daughter of a musical conductor. Australia has produced many famous sons and daughters for the musical world, and John Francis O'Hagan, better known as Jack, has secured a permanent place in the history of Australian music, principally based on his writing of Along the Road to Gundagai.
Yet there is much, much more to Jack O'Hagan, and in the program we'll let you know more and hear more of all kinds of songs that he wrote. He wrote over 200 songs and was one of the few Australian songwriters, indeed possibly the only one in his time, who could make a living full-time from his music writing. It is no idle boast to claim that Jack O'Hagan was, and still is, Australia's greatest songwriter.
Just realize all that I owe to you. Mother of mine, now I understand all that a mother goes through. There never was a my wonderful mother mine. Nobody else could be so true, for her love so divine. You helped me through when things went all wrong. With your love so wondrous and strong, there never was a pearl like you, my wonderful mother mine.
There Never Was a Pal Like You, and that was sung by Maxim Brodie with Gil Deck at the piano and was recorded sometime in the late 1920s.
And that was a song written by Jack O'Hagan as a mother-type song, which his mother did like very much. Jack was taught music as a boy to play the piano and to sing, and these talents he put to outstanding use during his career. Jack's piano teacher was intrigued that he could play the popular songs of the time perfectly, but in a different key. Jack declared he had brought himself up on the songs of Irving Berlin and Noel Coward, but Irving Berlin remained his favorite.
I'm happy, so happy, walking on air. The why and the wherefore is someone I care for. I'm yelling and I'm telling folks everywhere I know that she loves me, so why do I care? There's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above. Oh, the sun shines bright, the world's all right, 'cause I'm in love. There's a rainbow round my shoulder and it fits me like a glove. Let it blow and storm, but I'll be warm, 'cause I'm in love. Hallelujah, how the folks will stare when they see the diamond solitaire that my little sugar baby is gonna wear. Yes, sir, There's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above, and I'm shouting so the world will know that I'm in love. There's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above. Oh, the sun shines bright, the world's alright, 'cause I'm in love. There's a rainbow round my shoulder and it fits me like a glove. Let it blow and storm, but I'll be warm, 'cause I'm in love. Hallelujah, how the folks will stare when they see the diamond solitaire that my little sugar baby is going to wear. Yes, sir, there's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above, and I'm shouting so the world will know that I'm in love.
There's a rainbow round my shoulder, and that was Jack O'Hagan himself singing with Harry Jacobs, his orchestra, and recorded probably around 1928.
Jack O'Hagan and Harry Jacobs were very good friends, as well as excellent musicians. Every recorded performance of theirs shows this. The warmth and the musicianship of their music making can be seen as Jack and Harry perform Chiquita.
Chiquita, how can I live without you? Chiquita, Chiquita. Here under blankets of sky, shadows of the night find me alone. I'm asking all the world why you are not with me, you who were my own. Oh, come back, my darling Chiquita. The chapel on the hill covered with dew reminds me that tears of sorrow await me at dawn tomorrow. A love kiss I'll beg or borrow from memory. Remember the sunset, Chiquita, the day that we first met, Chiquita. The rose within your hair, I sent its fragrance everywhere. Oh, come back, Chiquita, to me. Chiquita, the day that we first met, Chiquita, the rose within your hair, I sent its fragrance everywhere. Oh, come
And that was Chiquita. Once again, Jack O'Hagan with Harry Jacobs and his orchestra, recorded in 1928.
Jack O'Hagan missed out on participation in the First World War. He weighed only 7 stone. He described himself as a weed. In later years, Jack was to add,
"Of course, grog helped me to put on weight."
He first worked as a real estate agent for £3 per week, but his big break came when George Sutherland of Allans Music in Collins Street, Melbourne, offered him £8 per week on a 3-month trial basis. Jack's job was to promote popular songs of the day, all of which turned out to be British and American. George Sutherland obviously made his offer, knowing full well the skills and talents of the young Jack O'Hagan.
There's a story I've read that I'll tell to you. It is June and they meet the same as most lovers do. When he is called away and he writes her to say, I'm in heaven when I see you smile, smile for me, my Diane. And though everything's dark all the while, I can see you, Diane. You have lighted the road leading home. Pray for me when you can. But no matter wherever I roam, smile for me, my Diane. I'm in heaven when I see you smile, smile for me, my Diane. And though everything's dark all the while, I can see you, Diane. You have lighted the road leading home. Pray for me when you can. But no matter wherever I roam, smile for me, my Diane.
The ever-popular Diane. Jack O'Hagan there with just piano accompaniment.
An American hit of the 20s that was typical of the songs Jack was asked to promote. Jack said,
My job was to plug various numbers. I'd go to dance halls and theatres and proposition top-notch artists to play and sing these songs.
At times he must have performed in many local halls and dance places around Melbourne himself, and many patrons were aware of the musical performing talents of this Allans musical promoter. The very first O'Hagan song that was copyrighted was called That Hesitation Rag, and this occurred in 1916 when he was a boy of 18 years of age.
You're the cream in my coffee, you're the salt in my stew, you will always be my necessity, I'd be lost without you. You're the starch of my collar, you're the lace in my shoe, you will my necessity, I'd be lost without you. Most men tell love tales, and each phrase dovetails. You heard each known way. This way is my own way. You're the sail of my love boat. You're the captain and the crew. You will always be my necessity. I'd be lost without you. I'm not a poet, how will I know it? I've never been a raver, but when I speak of you, I rave a bit, it's true. I'm wild about you, I'm lost without you. You give my life its flavor, what sugar does for tea, that's what you do for me. I'd be lost without you.
You're the cream in my coffee. Jack O'Hagan with Art Chapman and his ensemble, recorded in 1929.
Another big American hit which Jack promoted. Listeners should remember that there was no television or radio as yet to promote the songs, so the dance halls and the theatres of the 20s was the place to promote and push a song, and eventually the sale of new records and sheet music.
I wander out yonder o'er the hills, where the mountain tides seem to kiss the sky. Someone is out yonder o'er the hills, waiting patiently, waiting just for me. Ramona, I hear the mission bells above. Ramona, they're ringing out our song of love. I press you, caress you, and bless the day you taught me to care. To always remember the rambling rose you wear in your hair. Ramona, when day is done, you'll hear my call. Ramona, we'll meet beside the waterfall. I dread the dawn when I awake to find you gone. Ramona, I need you, my own. Ramona, I hear the mission bells above. Ramona, they're ringing out our song of love. I press you, caress you, and bless the day you taught me to care. To always remember the rambling rose you wear in your hair. Ramona, when day is done, you'll hear my call. Ramona, we'll meet beside the waterfall. I dread the dawn when I awake to find you gone. Ramona, I need you, my own.
Ramona with Jack O'Hagan and an ensemble, recorded in July 1928. Another recording of a big American hit, performed beautifully by Jack. He had from his childhood begun to compose songs as well as writing the lyrics. One can imagine him efficiently and enthusiastically doing his Allans job and singing the multitude of new British and American songs.
One can also see Jack O'Hagan ruminating and cogitating on his own music. One cannot keep a fertile, creative mind like Jack O'Hagan shut off. Clearly, he was privately writing songs and waiting for the opportunity to express himself to the general public.
Recently, we asked Denzil Howson, a Melbourne writer, broadcaster, actor and media personality, did he know anything about Jack O'Hagan? Denzil, in his usual generous and imaginative way, came up with this.
Many years ago, a radio production house in Melbourne was producing a series of radio documentaries, each program dealing with a year in Australia's history, from the turn of the century onwards. While they were recreating the events of the year 1922, a shortish, happy gentleman walked into the studio, sat down at the piano, and sang this song.
There's a track winding back to an old-fashioned shack along the road to Gundagai, where the blue guns are growing and the Murrumbidgee is flowing beneath.
It was Jack O'Hagan, Australian composer and vocalist, with his greatest hit, Along the Road to Gundagai. If Waltzing Matilda is accepted as Australia's unofficial national anthem, then O'Hagan's Gundagai must run at a pretty close second. It was written and published in 1922, and Jack O'Hagan's son-in-law, William Gray of Melbourne, told me how this hit came to be written. Entrepreneur Hugh D. McIntosh, who many years ago was associated with the Melbourne Tivoli, was one day talking to a group of Melbourne musicians, and he observed that all the popular tunes of the day were either from America or England. And he said, "Why don't you fellows write something about Australia?" So Jack took the hint, went home, sat down at the piano, and wrote Along the Road to Gundagai. It was an immediate hit, and has remained so, partly because Australian producers down the years haven't let us forget it. For instance, in the 40s, when George Edwards was producing his marathon radio serial Dad and Dave, what did he use as a theme? This, remember? If the mood was sad, Gundagai would be played lentement, and if the mood was happy, double tempo. When Philip Noyce produced the Australian film Newsfront in 1978, he commissioned composer William Motzing to write and arrange the score. And what melody did William Motzing use as part of the stirring music for Newsfront? Listen. Does it sound familiar? Just about everybody knows the words of Gundagai, or at least they know some of the words of the chorus, words which have been parodied many a time. and I guess that's a measure of a song's success. But how many know the words of the verses? To conclude our review of the song, which maybe has earned the reputation of being Australia's second unofficial anthem, here is the great Peter Dawson with the little-known verses and the familiar chorus of Gundagai.
There's a scene that lingers in my memory of an old bush home and friends I long to see. That's why I am yearning just to be returning along the road to Gundagai. There's a track winding back to an old-fashioned shack along the road to Gundagai, where the blue gums are growing and the marambit is blowing beneath the sunny sky, where my daddy and mother are waiting for me, and the past of my childhood once more I will see. Then no more will I roam when I'm heading right home along the road Gundagai. When I get back there, I'll be a kid again. For I'll never have a thought of grief or pain. Once more I'll be playing where the guns are swinging along the road to Gundagai. There's a track winding back to an old-fashioned shack along the road to Gundagai, where the blue gums are growing and the marambit is flowing beneath the sunny sky, where my daddy and mother are waiting for me, and the past of my childhood once more I will see. Then no more will I roam when I'm heading right home along the road Gundagai.
So in 1922, Jack O'Hagan hit the musical headlines with his famous composition, spurred on by the challenge of Hugh McIntosh of Melbourne's Tivoli Theatre. The Road to Gundagai was the 21st song he had published, and first appeared in a stage show called 40 Thieves.
Eric Godley, a Tivoli operatic singer at the time, had seen Gundagai before it was launched. After examining the song, Godley said,
"That song is going to make you famous."
Remembering the statement many years later, Jack declared,
By God, he was right.
and the song went on and on and on with its popularity. So now the O'Hagan bandwagon was on the road, and Australians wanted more songs from the fellow who had written that Gundagai song.
Night and the rose nods in the pose, while I'm alone with my memory. Thoughts that were gone still linger on, just like an old-fashioned melody, taking me back to a night in Spain, where someone's waiting, but not in vain. Waiting 'neath the dreamy light of the the Spanish moon, ever hoping and praying, for she knows her loved one will come back soon. 'Neath the starlight she's dreaming of a sudden wonderful night in June, in a rendezvous where we made a tryst and kissed near the Spanish moon. Near the dreamy light of the Spanish moon, ever hoping and praying, for she knows her loved one will come back soon. 'Neath the starlight she's dreaming of a sudden wonderful night in June, in a rendezvous where we made a tryst and kissed neath the Spanish moon.
Spanish Moon, recorded by Jack O'Hagan in 1927.
The record says that Spanish Moon was written by Pamela Teresa, but in fact it was written by Jack. Pamela was his eldest daughter. He was to use the Pamela Teresa name for another song, which was to be a landmark with his musical compositions.
In 1928, the new musical comedy Love Never Dies contained the hit number Janine, I Dream of Lilac Time. With the birth of his second daughter, and at the suggestion of a friend, Jack O'Hagan called his new daughter Janine. In 1929, seemingly to commemorate the splendid event, he recorded the song.
In bloom, rarest perfume tells me that waiting is ended. Springtime is here, soon you'll be near, when all our heartaches are mended. Close in my arms, fond embraces, once more in happiest places. Janine, I dream of lilac time. Your eyes, they beam in lilac time. Your winning smile and cheeks blushing like the rose, yet all the while you sigh when nobody knows. Janine, my queen of lilac time, when I return, I'll make you mine. For you and I, our love dream can never die. Janine, I dream of lilac time. make you mine, for you and I, a love dream can never die. Janine, I dream of love song.
Janine, I Dream of Lilac Time. Jack O'Hagan, recorded in 1929.
Jack O'Hagan also recorded a song where the singer was listed as Frankie Quinlan. The singer is, of course, Jack, the music by Leslie Saroni, an English songwriter and music hall artist. The name Quinlan happened to be his mother's maiden name, one of the many pseudonyms that Jack wrote under. He also used such names as Ferguson Noakes, Al Sparks, Dean Flintoff, Wilson Jeffries, and Ted Whiting. Here's Jack masquerading as Frankie Quinlan singing I Lift Up My Finger.
Some people make a fuss when a thing goes wrong. Some start to swear and cuss, others sing a song. I don't do either, that's all not true. When a thing goes wrong with me, this is what I do. I lift up my finger and I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now, come come. I don't need to linger when I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now, come come. When the baby screams and scatters my dreams, do I start to sing or hum? No, I lift up my finger and I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now, come come. Now some people say hut hut, others say dash dash. Some call for beer or mutt, others sauce and mash. If in the hotel waiters are slow, do I thunder who, the why, the wonder? Oh no! When the cat's at night are starting to fight, do I stand by, deaf and dumb? No. I lift up my finger and I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now. Oh, it's too silly. I lift up my finger and I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now. How could you? I don't need to linger when I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now. Perish the thought. When the baby screams and scatters my dreams, do I start to sing or hum? No, I lift up my finger and I say, tweet tweet, shush shush, now now, come come.
Oh, thank heaven that's over. Going home now, boys. Cheerio.
I Lift Up My Finger, Frankie Quinlan, otherwise known as Jack O'Hagan, recorded in 1929. Not only did Jack O'Hagan work at Allans, being the manager from 1920 to 1931, but he also sang at Melbourne's Plaza Theatre. That's the theatre that was underneath the Regent in Collins Street.
And there in the plaza, with his friend Eddie Fitch at the Wurlitz organ, he would sing songs. Here is one such song, written specially by Jack for his wife, Josephine.
When the day is done and the setting sun bids farewell to starlit sky, then I hurry where I lose every care. I've found an earthly paradise. a picture to see. We're so happy together, just Josie and me. There's a sweet little blue room that's as snug as can be. Just a real Bill and cool room for Josie and me. When Mr. Gloom comes along, we laugh him off with a song. Somehow we right every wrong so easily. Though we're just two together, maybe soon there'll be three. Life is all sunny weather with Josie and me.
Josie and Me, Jack O'Hagan with the Eddie Fitch at the organ at the Plaza Theatre, recorded in Melbourne in 1929. In 1928, with Jack O'Hagan at the peak of great popularity, he wrote a song called Japanese Mammy. Somehow, he had been inspired, moved or influenced by Puccini's Madame Butterfly. The subject is the same, and to top it all off, there are even one or two bars from the Puccini opera.
Out in Yokohama, there's a Yokohama mama singing of the yama yama to a sleepy baby at the close of day, when he's tired of play. It's the same old story of a sailor boy who swore he loved her truly, but he stayed to cry because he sailed away and said goodbye. Now the breeze has sailed. Little Japanese mammy, rock your baby to rest. The shadows are creeping from out of the west. The star of the evening is over his head, while blossoms are falling to make him a bed. Little Japanese baby, keep a slumbering through till the Japanese sunbeams say good morning to you, while a Japanese mammy is watching alone, waiting for a sailor man who never comes home. Japanese mammy, rock your baby to rest. little shadows are creeping from out of the west. The star of the evening is over his head, while blossoms are falling to make him a bed. Little Japanese baby, keep a slumbering through till the Japanese sunbeams say good morning to you, while a Japanese mammy is watching alone, waiting for a sailorman who never comes home.
Japanese Mammy, Jack O'Hagan with the Harry Jacobs Orchestra, recorded in 1928.
Certainly a song of considerable charm and skill, but the Japanese interest was to dim very quickly with the invasion of the Asian mainland by Japan's imperial armies and the atrocities that followed. In Jack's later years, whilst in a nursing home, a fellow patient was the author Alan Marshall, famous for his autobiographical book, I Can Jump Puddles. Alan said to Jack,
"When I'm gone, I'll be forgotten after a while, but your song will live on because you've written a national song."
Jack was smart enough to realise that Gundagai was so well known that his other songs could so easily be neglected. He was right to a degree, but how can one ignore the quality of his other musical offerings?
Gather around while I tell you all the new dance I found that is different from the rest and is sure to stand the test even of the very most discriminating. What is its name? I am certain one and all will exclaim. It's the rhythm that is blue, and I'm positive that you soon will find that it is really scintillating. Everybody's dancing to that rhythm, so entrancing, call that blue rhythm, blue rhythm. There's a new sensation that is bound to grip the nation in that new rhythm, blue rhythm. Though you may be skeptical about the thrill of this dance, you'll find it's electrical and something snap full of pep. Hold your partner tightly, trip the light, fantastic brightly to that blue rhythm, blue rhythm. Shake a little shoulder as you grow a trifle bolder when you do with that blue rhythm. So while the dances are passing, you'll find that this is here to stay. So get your dancing shoes and lay aside your cares and blues and do that blue rhythm now. Tightly trip the light, fantastic brightly to that blue rhythm, blue rhythm. Shake a little shoulder as you grow a trifle bolder when you do with them, that blue rhythm. While the dances are passing, why you'll find this is here to stay. So get your dancing shoes and lay aside your cares and blues and do that blue rhythm now.
Blue Rhythm, Jack O'Hagan with Art Chapman and his trio, recorded in 1929.
Now this composition is interesting because it shows Jack had picked up the popular current style of music. What's more, it is the only Australian composition to embrace the Charleston idiom to get its message across.